So I just uploaded my video review of the Arrow Hunter Kestrel, and intentionally I kept everything pretty much stock as you would receive it from Arrow Hunter, so if people are looking to buy one, they know exactly what they're going to get. I also love to modify stuff, obviously, so in this video I want to talk more about some of the modifications, specifically regarding the ropes. So, first one would be the tree tether or the tree strap. What I basically did even before I got my Arrow Hunter Kestrel was I bought some Samson Predator rope and I spliced an eye into one end of it. So a spliced eye is going to be a little bit stronger than a knot, but in this case, I mean, it's not like you're ever going to realize the difference because they're both going to be more than strong enough. With this rope, splicing the eye was a total pain in the butt and I would not do it again. However, if you were going to do this, I would say just order it spliced from like Wesper, put in the notes how big you want the eye to be and go that route, pay the extra 20-30 bucks or whatever it is, because this thing literally took me like 2 or 3 hours to finally get it done and it was hard work. And I also put a Ropeman 1 ascender on that rope with the carabiner. So why the ascender? Why the Ropeman? Well, the friction hitch is totally adequate for the tree tether. You'll save 40 bucks or whatever this costs by not going with the Ropeman. The only downside to a friction hitch is that after you really load that rope and load that hitch, it can bind down onto the rope and that makes it kind of hard to get it to start moving again. Whereas with the ascender, it really doesn't matter how much you use it. It's really easy to get that thing to move back up and down the rope again. The next thing I want to touch on is lineman's belt. I did a video not too long ago showing my lineman's belt that I kind of put together using this Petzl Vector 8mm cord and the Ropeman 2 ascender. And I will never probably go back to a lineman's belt that doesn't have an ascender on it versus a friction hitch. It's just so much easier to use. The only downside to this rope, in my opinion, is that the green is a little bit on the brighter side. Realistically, it's probably not going to make any difference in the world. I doubt the deer are going to see this quicker than they would see any of my movement. It's just kind of one of those things that always sticks into my head. I guess I'm a little bit OCD about this kind of stuff. And I've tried ropes that are a little bit more neutral colored or camouflage, and I haven't found anything that really holds up to the small teeth in that Ropeman 2 quite as well. So this is still a preferred rope, I think, for this ascender, but it has had me considering whether or not I want to just go with a Ropeman 1 and use that Samson Predator rope, so I might end up just switching to that. The last thing I want to talk about is the bridge. So I'm just going to put the saddle on real quick so I can show you what I'm talking about. So the bridge that comes with the Arrow Hunter Kestrel is a Samson Predator rope. It comes tied onto the saddle on one side, the other side is tied to a carabiner that you could use to clip on or off of the other side of the saddle. So I've chosen to remove that carabiner just to eliminate the metal, and I really don't feel a need to detach the bridge. One downside with the bridge that's a little bit too short is that you need to basically tuck it into the waist loop to be able to walk and kind of keep it from flopping around. So what I've done is I've tied a friction hitch, this one's just a Prusik, onto the other side of my saddle. So I got the free end tied into the saddle and then the actual sliding portion of it is on that bridge rope. And what this basically gives me is it gives me an adjustable length for that bridge. So when I'm walking into the woods, I can loosen that thing up all the way and it's long enough to throw over my shoulders. So then when I'm walking, I'll not only have the bridge over my shoulders, but I can also have the lineman's belt draped over my shoulders. So I can walk in like this. Then when I get to the tree, I can use the lineman's belt to start climbing. And then I transfer the bridge, clip it into the tree strap, clip it into that tether, and then I can go ahead and tighten it up to the actual length that I want to hunt out of for that bridge. Now, at one point I did have a Ropeman on here, a Ropeman and a carabiner, and I thought, well, do I really need a $45 piece of equipment tied to this bridge right here, which gives me another 2 pieces of metal that could potentially make noise, or do I just want to go to the friction hitch? And I decided for this, it doesn't bind up quite as much as that tether does, so I'm totally fine just using the Prusik here. A couple other materials that I've tried for the bridge, I've tried the 1-inch tubular webbing, I've tried AM steel, 1/4 inch. Honestly, it all works. It's just a matter of personal preference a little bit. One of the downsides to the tubular webbing is that if you wanted to use a backband, you can't really use those little mini Prusiks to slide a backband up or down. With the AM steel, the advantage of the AM steel is it's crazy light. It's a lot lighter than the Samson Predator rope is. It's also not quite as camouflaged. Whether or not that's of any concern to you, I guess it's personal opinion. I've done the AM steel two ways. I've done it fixed length, which I basically spliced it on one side with a locked Brummel, and then I did a lock stitch splice on the other side, and that worked pretty fine. The only thing is it was short enough that I had to tuck it into the waistband on my saddle. I've also done it with a whoopee sling, so basically I had it spliced onto one side. I had a whoopee sling adjustment system so that I can make that bridge really long, or I can make it really short, to then again throw it over my shoulders like this to be able to walk. With the whoopee sling, by the time I took it off and I pulled out that slack, that tag end to adjust it shorter, that tag end got so long with that whoopee sling, I kind of got annoyed by it, so I went back to a fixed length with the AM steel anyway. Honestly, I still really like the Samson Predator. One of the advantages of the Samson Predator versus the AM steel, obviously the Samson's going to be a little bit heavier than the AM steel is. If you're in the saddle and you're just kind of leaning your head up against the bridge and just kind of resting or taking a cat nap or whatever, this is fairly comfortable, this nice wide 7/16 inch rope. Whereas if you have an AM steel bridge there and you try and rest your head against it, it really digs into your forehead a lot harder. So I'll probably end up keep using this Samson Predator, but I will just use it with the adjustable length using this friction hitch here on the other side of my saddle. And then I've talked about this little pouch in some of my other videos. It's a Kuiu hip belt pouch, and I basically take that and I put it on the front of my saddle right here. On the inside of that pouch, I have my utility strap. And since it's right here, I don't have to go digging around in my backpack to be able to get it out. I can just take it right out, put it on the tree, then I can take my backpack off and hook that on. And then finally, the only other mod I guess I've really done to this, and it's not really even that much of a mod, is just that I like to use zip ties in conjunction with the MOLLE webbing. So as is, the MOLLE webbing can be kind of hard to fit an accessory through. If you're attaching something like a dump pouch, it's not that big of a deal where it's pretty much always on. But for stuff that you're constantly clipping in and out, like a tether, or like a bow pull-up rope, clipping that in and out, I found that if you take a little zip tie and you feed that through the MOLLE webbing, it gives you a little bit bigger hook to actually grab. So I like doing that personally. The great thing about saddles and saddle hunting in general is that it's very modification friendly. If you go on the Saddle Hunter forum, you'll see dozens and dozens of mods that people have done with dozens and dozens of saddles and even made their own saddles. So it's a very appealing hunting system for people who like to do it themselves. However, you can also, like with the case of the Kestrel, you can buy one completely stock and still make it work for you. If you have any questions or if you have any cool mods that you've done yourself, please leave them in the comments down below. I'd love to read them.